You want to hit record? Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. And welcome to the first event of the 2026 Policy Series. My name is Amanda Rodriguez. I'm one of the policy coordinators here at the National Association of Social Workers New York Chapter, your professional organization for all things social work. And welcome to How Do Social Workers Grassroots Organize and Directly Advocate? Chapter extends our gratitude to our attendees and all of you who are here tonight to learn and expand your knowledge and to gain clarity and resources for the work that you do. We appreciate your time and your willingness to engage with us on this vital topic. Please note that this event does not offer CE credits, but we do hope that the content will still provide valuable insights and foster meaningful discussion. To ensure a smooth experience, we kindly ask that everyone remain muted while the presenter or guests are speaking. If you do have any questions, please feel free to submit them via the chat, or if the presenter invites you to unmute, you may ask your question then. Please raise your hand in the case of a question. A staff member will be monitoring the chat throughout the event and will make sure any questions are addressed. We ask that all attendees respect the NASW anti-harassment policy, which will be shared with you all shortly in the chat. Our goal tonight is to maintain an accountable and respectful environment for everyone and to provide information and resources to those who are seeking it. Additionally, we will be sending any materials and resources discussed today, as well as info on upcoming opportunities to engage with the chapter, which if you're not registered for the remaining two events on Wednesday and Thursday, make sure you reserve your spot, and we'll be sending any opportunities by email no later than tomorrow morning. Thank you all for being here tonight. We look forward to a productive and respectful conversation. I will pass it over to Dr. C.A.R.E Kennedy, LMSW, the Executive Director of NASW New York, for some quick words to get us started.
Thank you so much, Amanda. So welcome. I am so excited to see a robust crowd here for this particular launch of our Spring 2026 Policy Series. This is an opportunity to ask questions. Do not be shy. You are in good company. And I say that because most of the people on this call may not know what to do and may have questions or something is happening and you don't know where to start, right? So we're talking about grassroots, and grassroots starts really at the beginning. It starts at the community level. It starts at the individual level. And it also starts just even thinking about doing something. So you're in the right place. We are excited to have you. And we are looking forward to you coming to our other series that we have for the 2026 Policy Series. And we have many more C.A.R.E.S events. So thank you so much. I'll pass it back off to Amanda or Gideon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. And we'll get started on our first presentation from the NASW New York policy team. All right. How to organize with the National Association of Social Workers New York chapter. This is your professional association. This is your voice to get involved in the social work profession and all that we advocate for. And I just want to take a moment to understand that some of this event may be the first event that you're attending that has to do with advocacy or political justice at all. And so I do want to thank you for starting this journey. If this is your first event dealing with advocacy, and if you are well versed in the work and the journey of advocacy, then thank you for joining. And we encourage you to share your words of wisdom with the rest of the group. First, before we start, I just want to go through how decisions and policies are decided at NASW New York for those of you who aren't familiar with our process. The chapter generally decides to either support a advocacy issue or campaign endorsement through two political branches of our chapter government. The first one is the Advocacy and Government Relations Committee, or the AGR Committee. And the second is the NASW New York Political Action for Candidate Election Committee, or PACE. And then the board of directors is also involved in decisions as well. So to first adopt an issue such as a bill that is brought to our attention, first the chapter is made aware of that issue by a coalition or another organization or by a legislative member themselves. Or maybe we saw something on the news that alerted us that we need to immediately take action to that if it directly involves social work or affects the profession or anything that anyone that the social work profession serves. And so when we are made aware of that support request, the information is then forwarded to the correct location for memos of support and to sign on to different letters or advocacy issues. We generally forward that to the board of directors and to the Advocacy and Government Relations Committee, where we've received feedback from different social workers of all different expertise. Staff is responsible to provide relevant information and context to support a decision on if the chapter should support that issue or if maybe they should refrain and get some more information to most understand how to move forward in that advocacy area. The AGR committee votes on our legislative priorities. So we are member led and we take pride on that notif. So if you are part of our AGR committee, we bring every issue to that committee and we ask for your opinion. Or also, you have a unique opportunity to be able to shape legislation with us, as we have multiple opportunities to address areas that haven't been addressed yet when it comes to social work. And so we continually ask for feedback from that committee, and they help guide our legislative path and agenda. When it comes to supporting our agenda through political action, the NASW-New York PACE Committee, they are responsible to vote to endorse candidates running for election. And their goal of that committee is to advance social work through elections. And so regardless of all that happens within the committees, everything must be reviewed and supported by the board of directors. And overarching all of these entities is the NASW Code of Ethics, of course, which all social workers are ethically bound by, and we generally make sure everything that we support is in alignment with the ethical code. Next, I wanted to talk a little bit of how to organize and how to get engaged with community organizing if you've never approached that before. First, I want to talk about this graph here that I have from a lovely book called Organizing for Social Change, the Midwest Academy Manual for Activists, which I found in our New York City chapter when I was digging through some of the relics in there, and to look at the existing relationship with power. So when you're accepting a power relationship, there are many ways that you can still engage in advocacy without directly challenging the power. So for instance, if you're in direct service, and this is using an example of unaffordable housing and homelessness. And so looking at that specific issue, direct service may look like a service organization operating a shelter or building subsidized housing, making referrals, or helping people apply for assistance. All of these services are examples of direct service. To look at self-help, people who need housing could be provided some of the above. So that's advocating for yourself. And then we look at education, which is neutral, it's in the middle, because education, it could challenge power by having more knowledge or by educating about an advocacy issue, yet it is generally neutral. But education is power, as we've come to know. So an education organization might study the loss of affordable housing, the rising foreclosure rate, or the role of real estate development and publish its findings. So all these studies that we're using to power our advocacy is incredibly important, as data powers this work. And, legislators, when we're talking about these different issues, of course, we need the facts to support what we're claiming. So then we look at advocacy as we're kind of getting into the window where we're challenging any existing power relationship. An organization might advocate for people who need housing by giving testimony or by having a meeting with a different elected official in order to address the issue and advocate for a change to the existing dynamic, whether that's old law that currently exists that needs to be changed, or whether that's an agency regulation that is out of date that needs to be paid attention to, or whether that's just a social issue that needs to gain awareness or social change that needs to happen. Lastly, we look at direct action, which directly challenges the power relationship within advocacy. And so that may look like within the example we were talking about, the people who need affordable housing organize. They agree on a solution that meets their needs. With the strength of their numbers, they pressure the politicians and officials responsible. The people directly affected by the problem take action to solve it. They might demand rent control laws, limits on luxury construction, voting rights for homeless people, or the conversion of empty buildings into affordable housing. And I think this is a little outdated because I believe that homeless rights to vote have actually increased in the few latest years, and now they have a few more rights to be able to have a mailing address while they vote and things like that. But that's what it looks like when you begin to organize and a mass amount of people that is challenging an existing relationship. And then we look at the direct principles of direct action before we move on to the next topic. You want to have three elements of direct action. One is to win real, immediate, concrete improvement in people's lives. And that might look like having small goals, which helps people have a sense of fulfillment when they're on this advocacy journey. Since sometimes they can be long and it can be hard to try to get a bill pushed, for instance, it can take several years to get a bill passed through the New York State Legislature. And so having small wins that are broken down into short-term attainable goals that can solve smaller issues as you're working towards an overarching goal can help to keep people motivated in the process. Two is to give people a sense of their own power. Direct action organizations mobilize the power that people have. In doing so, they teach the value of united action through real life examples. And so that's what this looks like tonight is us coming together, understanding what power we have and how we can use that power to affect change. And then three is to alter the relations of power by building a strong, lasting relationship with other organizations. And that can also look like building coalition. So next, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Gideon Massa, who is going to go through the advocacy toolkit, which we are releasing today. Surprise, everyone.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gideon Massa. I am the other side of the policy team here at NASW New York. And today I will be presenting to you the Advocacy Toolkit, which we've been working on for a while now, and we're super excited to release. This Advocacy Toolkit, honestly, is about 40 pages, so I don't think I have the time today to go through everything in intense detail, but nonetheless, I'm going to try to get as much of this to you as possible, I'd say. So the first thing that I would say that is key with advocacy in general is making sure that you reach out to the legislators who are in your districts, and the best means of finding them are through the websites that we have on the toolkit here. Next slide, really quickly. These are the different means. Those were the different means in which legislation works within New York City and within New York in general. But let me talk you through also how you should be speaking to these legislators. So firstly, most importantly, is actually understanding who your legislators are. Obviously, you can do those through the two links that we had. Keeping an eye out for upcoming events, one of the biggest things, and it's something so important in general when it comes to advocacy, is staying involved, right? It's so easy to get out of the loop in general when it comes to advocacy. So staying involved, going to those upcoming events, going to those town halls, those meetings that you can really talk to these people, it does cause change. I've seen it firsthand. It has gotten bills passed. Highly recommend just continuing to stay involved. Searching for existing groups and coalitions, being creative in that manner. It's the exact same thing. Stay involved. After you have been involved and after you continue going to these meetings, doing the research on what issues are key to you is also of the highest importance, right? There are 1,000 things on the docket. There are 1,000 things there are 1,000 items of legislation that are hoped to be passed. What is key is that you know what you want done and that you advocate hard for those because, again, it can be complicated and it can be very overarching, but nonetheless, there are things that we need done. Knowing your community is key as well. It all coincides with staying active. Staying active is key. Knowing your community and sharing your thoughts with said community will inevitably get it to the elected officials. And then the last step, and very important, is getting on a call with those legislators. I've been on hundreds of calls now with legislators asking how bills are doing, how bills are going to get passed, et cetera, et cetera. Legislators, their jobs are to listen to us, right? That is what they do for a living. So when you call a legislator and you explain to them the issues that you're going through, many of them do care. They do care and they will care. But those are the first six things that you need to make sure you have settled before you call legislators.
We
So
can just go quickly, yeah.
yeah, I'm realizing we don't have enough time. So state level government, very simple, 63 seats in the Senate, 150 seats in the Assembly. Um, New York State legislative session meets every year. It begins in early January and concludes in mid-June. Only the governor may call a special session to bring the legislator back into session once it has ended. And legislators have capital offices and district offices, so you can advocate from any area of the state and you can join and you can go to those offices. State level government wise, I would watch the advocacy training provided by Jeb E. Brooks, School of Public Policy at Cornell University. It is an incredible video. It gives you a great idea of how to really get started.
Yeah, if you've never engaged in any advocacy, this is the video to watch here at the state level.
Absolutely. So state level advocacy, find your legislators and their contact information is step one. Step two, learn about your legislators, know the basic information about them, that being the bills they support, the bills they don't, what party they're a part of. Call or email asking to schedule a meeting. There's a template there for an email. And then prepare for your meeting. Have your ask, have the bills you care about. Make sure that you are able to discuss those bills in detail because legislators will ask. Legislators will ask how this is going to be able to work, how we're going to be able to get this done. And it is key to know those details. New York City government acts in a very different manner, especially in this state. The City Council and NYC's legislative body, there are about 51 elected members, one from each council district. Besides enacting legislation, the City Council approves the city's budget and has oversight powers for activities of city agencies. Council members are closely involved with the community boards in the districts they represent and serve as members of their boards. So please go to those more board meetings, go to those town halls. You will meet legislators there. It is so important. I can't express it enough.
Yeah, in the city, the community board is a great place to start. But this goes into some more depth, into more resources, just to click quickly through it. And Gideon made an amazing state of the state overview, so if you could just go over that part as well, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely. So the state of the state came out. It gives highlights of what has been going on recently in New York State and where money is going. And it is often and sadly all about money, right? That is a key issue when it comes to the budget. That is a key issue that everyone is fighting for, including Amanda and I. And so I'll go over some of the items very briefly. So on the mental health side, we had a few things that were really, really important and that we're very excited about. I'd say key. I'm going to go over the first bullet points, but I highly recommend that you guys go and read this yourself. It is honestly so exciting. But we allow clinics to provide mental health and substance use services under a single jointly issued license, breaking down barriers for clients with co-occurring conditions. That is the first step. That is incredibly important. When it comes to youth mental health, a highlight I had was expanding teen mental health first aid training to all 10th graders statewide, teaching young people to identify and respond to mental health and substance use challenges among their peers. Again, there are many other details, but we don't have the time tonight. But
Yeah,
children
you
and
go through some great, yeah, sorry, you go through some great elements, children, family, affordability.
there are plenty of details of what happened in the state of the state. I can't express enough to y'all. I highly recommend going over the entirety of this, and it will be incredibly there's a lot of information, but it'll be incredibly helpful in the long run to your advocacy journeys. I think we can cut off of it. I know that was super brief and that only gave some detail on what the advocacy toolkit was about. Sadly, we only have an hour. Again, though, we will send this to y'all tonight. I beg of you. We put a lot of work into it, and it would be so helpful to us that you all understand what is going on in the social work career and the social work world. So with that, I'll throw it back to Amanda really quickly.
Yeah, and we'd love to go through that one-on-one with anyone. If you give us a call, we would love to go through any of those items with you in particular. But yeah, we did a great job on that. Just with expanding the resources. Since we unified, we want to make sure that there's ample resources for the state and also New York City so that we can effectively work on both levels of government as we haven't done in the past. And then just so everyone is aware, we do have our Policy Corner newsletter that's exclusive to members on Mondays that gives unique opportunities to engage with advocacy. Here is an example of our latest um, newsletter that we went through. We just released a podcast. We put information about loan forgiveness. We give budget updates in this newsletter. So if you aren't a member, this is a great resource that comes with joining. We did just launch our policy or our Power of Social Work podcast. So we're really excited about this. We're going to be having some more episodes that we're shooting in May. We just released our first episode. We'll drop that link in the chat so people can access that. It's actually on National's platform, which has over 1.7 million downloads. So we're definitely getting some great audience through this channel, and we're excited to amplify New York in this way. If you want to make an impact, one way is to submit an op-ed. We really could use anyone's personal experience to advance our advocacy. So look out for the current submission every time they come out and make sure that your voice and your image is in the issue to make sure that anything you want amplified is being projected to social workers out there. And then we'll put our contacts in the chat. We do have a couple other great presenters here, so we'll share some space for them, but I will drop my email and any links that we haven't shared yet in the chat here. Let me put my email. And yes, to answer your question, Anna, yes, you can become a member while being a student. It actually is a discounted rate, so it really is not too expensive to become a member as a student. But I see Pilar Bonilla is here. So I will give you over the spotlight, Pilar. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. So let's see, I'm going to share my screen. And okay. Dun, dun, dun. First off, I want to say that as a member of AGR and PACE, like we would not be able to do as much as we do without Amanda and Gideon. So like they deserve all the flowers here because this is not easy at all. Which is why it would be great if more of you joined. I actually joined NASW New York as a student member, and I am still part of it as an alum. Like, what is it, 2, 3 years later? Yeah, it's been that long. So, Amanda and Gideon actually did a really good job on covering grassroots organizing. So, what I want to cover about grassroots organizing is something that I feel isn't talked about a lot, which is your why. The reason why your why is important is because without knowing what your why is, this work is so much harder without being able to come back to like, why am I doing this? Especially when you're trying to get a bill passed, like we are in P4P New York, right? It feels like I was told recently by somebody like, don't worry, it took 10 years for me to get my bill passed. And I almost had a heart attack. I'm like, 10 years? No! Like, what? No. So, and yeah, I'm still not accepting 10 years. Yeah. But it's organizing is not something that's going to be done overnight. So knowing your why is really, really important because there are going to be times when you want to give up. There are going to be times where somebody's going to say something to you that might trigger you or might make you feel defeated or might make you feel very negative emotions. and you start to doubt yourself and the work that you're doing. So that's when you come back to your why. And I was looking over some stuff for myself because I don't want to be a hypocrite and tell you that this has been easy work or that it is easy work. And I was looking over some writings that I did as to why I even did this, right? Why did I decide? I started organizing as a student. The first campaign was the Hours Alignment campaign. And I had to really, really look at like what brought me here. Um, so these are just stuff that I wrote and I just want to read to you and maybe it'll do something. I hope it does. And if you're a student or you're a social worker, I hope this is something that you manage to realize along the way. My social work education provided me with the terminology and understanding I needed to explain things I had experienced throughout my life. It was both validating and numbing to know that my experiences were in fact so common that they were part of textbooks. I have learned the value of critical thinking and the equally important practice of critical self-reflection. Recognizing the impact of both implicit and explicit biases in myself and others was essential to this process. I now understand how my positionality, social identity, and intersectionality as Indigenous, Latina, cisgender, disabled woman profoundly have shaped my experiences. These factors, combined with my personal history with oppression and discrimination, significantly influence how I engage with and perceive the world, informing my approach to social justice work. Without ongoing critical self-reflection and acknowledgement of the intrinsic links between my experiences, values, and social identity, I risk perpetuating harm, potentially becoming part of the very problem I seek to address. This awareness is key to maintaining the integrity of my commitment to social justice. Realizing that my experiences, while personal, are also part of a shared history of discrimination, oppression, and future liberation helped me understand the importance of first healing my own traumas and internalized oppression so that I can be more intentional about the changes I wish to bring about. After all, personal healing and collective healing overlap and are interconnected. Real, broad, and long-lasting structural change cannot be achieved by working in silos, especially in the United States, where Western European, settler colonial, white supremacist, capitalistic, heteronormative, patriarchal, and neoliberal values and policies dominate. Dismantling systems of oppression require intentionality and a commitment to collective action. No invitation or permission needed. As a newly graduate social worker, I have found community not only with people who share my mother tongue, culture, or identities, but also with those who, through shared experiences of systematic oppression, are united in our commitment to dismantling these systems and creating transformative change. Our shared humanity and the power of unity in the face of life's most daunting obstacles make us that much stronger. And I wanted to share that piece of my writing with you guys to show how much work there has to be done internally inside of you to keep this going. You have to question yourself all the time. Like, not only why am I doing this, but like, why did I react this way? Why did this make me feel a certain way? Because those type of things are going to come up. And doing this type of work, organizing, grassroots organizing, especially, you have to be able to know who you are because it's very easy to get lost in the sauce. It's very easy to think that, well, I'm just I'm just tired, or what does it hurt if well, we're scratching each other's back type thing. And next thing you know, you might end up selling out. It's a very slippery slope. And so doing that work is very important so that you don't end up becoming that person that you first started out like not wanting to be or wanting to work against. You don't want to be that person. I think another thing about grassroots organizing that people don't often, talk about is the importance of knowing your history. Whatever you find is important to you, know the history behind it. Know what has been done or what hasn't been done. When we served at the Silverman Student Advocacy Collective, I was part of the Hours Alignment campaign. Before we could move forward, we needed to know what had been done. What had other cohorts of students tried to do before us? And they did try. And why didn't it work? Who did they talk to? Who were possible allies? Who were possible oppositions? And why? Right? So we had to really, really look at that. We had to, we had really hard conversations. Um, Giving grace is so important when it comes to grassroots organizing because this work is exhausting. And a lot of the time, unless you have funding, this work is free. And so on top of everything that you're doing, you're getting that extra bit of energy that you have left to do this work. And you're not being paid for it, but you believe so wholeheartedly in it that you're willing to do this work. So make sure that you're doing it correctly. Don't, I'm all about working smarter, not harder. Don't repeat the same mistakes. Find out as much as you can. If you're interested in changing the system in whatever way, find out what has been attempted. Don't start from scratch. There's no need to. You will find out that you are not the first person who has felt this way or who has had this idea. Do a Google search or ask somebody. I think it's very important that we remember why grassroots organizing became what it became, right? Which is something that is collective power, right, from the ground up. Because we don't always have organizations like NASW New York, who has been so amazing in helping P4P with all of our legislative actions, right? That was, I felt like, a big boon. But it's not always like that. And even before we went to NASW New York, and even though I was an AGR member and a PACE member, that we had to do a lot of coalition building, get people who thought like us, and even people who didn't think like us, and be like, okay, why don't you think that students need to get paid? Oh, well, I had to do it, so they should do it too. Okay. Well, do you like how much you're making now? Well, no, I could definitely be making more. Why do you think you're not making like the amount that you think you deserve? Well, it's the economy and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, have you considered this? That the valuation of the social work profession starts at the student level? Because why are they going to pay you your worth when they can get the labor for free from a student? And so when we're interns, we're competing against our future self. So it's coming up with stuff like this, thinking out of the box. Or people are like, no, no, no. As social workers, we need to advocate for others, not ourselves. That's selfish. Oh, you don't say. Okay. Well, what about all these communities, individuals you work with? You say you really care about them. So then, how is it that you can say that you care about them when you're not showing that you value them? What do you mean? How, if we accept that our value as social workers is like nothing, what does that say about the communities, about the people that we work with? What does it say about their value? Because when we accept breadcrumbs, not only are we too tired to really do the work, but we're also reflecting that they are not worth that. So, just a few tips and hints from like stuff that I've learned doing this grassroots organizing, because everything else you can get online. But this is something that I really wanted to share with you from my own personal experience, not out of a textbook. Thank you.
Pilar, are you sharing slides? Sorry, I just wanted to check if it was supposed to be on one screen.
Oh, yeah, I didn't switch slides. It's okay.
Okay, great. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Pilar. She is a model member of our PACE and AGR member. So if you want to work more with her, then join. We can't stress that enough. We need more people in this work, as Pilar was mentioning. And if you're inspired or passionate about payment for placements, if you're a student yourself, or if you just thought that was wrong when you went through your unpaid field placement, then if you join AGR, we are advocating for that as a priority. So please get involved. Next, we have an amazing PACE chair for our PACE committee, Alicia Bryant, LMSW PhD candidate, KSAC-T. CAPM, NASW New York PACE Chair. It's a long title, and that's because she is a qualified baddie. So we're going to pass it over to Alicia.
That was the best introduction I think I've ever gotten. Thank you so much, Amanda. Okay, let me share my um, slides with you all. All right. I think I should make it. There we go. All right. Um, Good evening, everyone. I am Alicia Bryant. I am the NASW PACE Committee Chair. And I'm here today to talk to you about how social workers organize, mobilize, and win in communities, elections, the like. Okay, so this is basically what we're going to go over today. Why grassroots organizing matters, what it is, what it looks like in social work practice, my experience, and we're going to connect it back to PACE, why PACE matters, and how you can get involved. So this is just a little bit about me, but we're not here to talk about me, so we're going to move on. All right, so starting here, why does this matter? So social workers see system failures in real time. So that's the first point that we want to talk about. We want to talk about how when social workers enter into spaces, you often see like housing, when those things are not working. Like I live in New York City and we have the affordable housing lottery. And oftentimes what we talk about is affordable for who? If I live in an area where the area median income is 50,000 and they're putting up developments that are supposed to serve people who make between 150,000 and 180,000, who is that affordable for? It's not affordable for the residents who currently live in the area. These are some of the issues that social workers are seeing on the ground. These are some of the things that we um, work with every day when clients step into our offices and step into our spaces. When clients have, you know, Medicaid benefits that are cut, SNAP benefits that are cut, when they're having access, their access denied to different services, all those experiences aren't random. So when we think about all of these things, we want to look at them across different the different systems, and we want to notice that these are policy-driven challenges. These are not individual to the people that we're serving. You often see these things replicated across different clients. So what grassroots organizing allows us to do is take those individual experiences and connect them to something bigger, which what we would call collective action. And so we're in a unique position because we are trusted voices in our communities. People come to us when they're in crisis, they come to us for guidance, and that creates an opportunity for engagement. So when we think about things like housing, healthcare, and public benefits, these are all shaped by policy decisions, as I'm sure many of you are aware as you kind of see what's happening in our current administration. So civic engagement now becomes part of our ethical responsibility because those are some of the ways that we're able to influence those systems. So now we're going to talk about like what grassroots organizing is. And this photo here is actually from a participatory budgeting meeting. These three tiny humans in the front are my daughters. So we were there, engaging in the process during the participatory budgeting season. So this slide really breaks down what grassroots organizing looks like in practice. So it starts with issues that people are experiencing. So in this photo, people were discussing like different things that were happening in their community. And then they propose projects that go on the ballot. Um, and then they ask the city council basically to fund it, is essentially how it works. So it's about bringing people together around shared challenges. So it's not just one case, but patterns across a community. Somebody in the room might say, "Oh my God, like the street lights on the corner of Flatbush and Avenue K are out, and we really should have more street lights and security cameras." And somebody else might say, "Yeah, my neighbor got robbed over there because it was so dark and they didn't see that someone was lurking in the corner. So those are different things that can come out of some of these types of meetings. And so from there, the work is rooted in relationships and trust, and that's what makes organizing sustainable. And then it's really important that the work centers the voices of the people most impacted, not just us as the professionals or the elected officials in the room, as you see the District 45 City Council rep standing in front of the room, but for the community members themselves. So we move into turning these individual struggles into collective action. So that might look like advocacy, organizing, or engagement. And finally, we connect that to systems change through things like voting, campaigns, and policy advocacy, which are some of the things that Amanda and Gideon were talking about earlier, like through AGR and things like that. That's like policy advocacy. Okay. So this is what grassroots organizing can look like in our day-to-day work as social workers. So first, integrating civic engagement into practice. That can be as simple as talking to clients about voting, their rights, and how issues connect to policy. So if you work in a clinical setting, maybe as part of your intake forms, you ask people, are they registered to vote? Second, creating spaces for community voice. That might be creating forums or conversations about local issues or elections. Maybe you host the different candidates that are running in your district, then you host them and bring them to come to talk to the community members so that the community is now informed about the different folks that are running in their district, and they can bring to those elected officials some of the challenges that they're experiencing and see what their positions are. You might be surprised what comes out of some of those conversations. Third, engaging in trusted spaces. So schools, community centers, faith-based organizations, places where people already feel comfortable because then they're more likely to open up and have some difficult conversations, but necessary conversations. Sometimes those things help bridge the divide between folks that are on opposing ends of, let's say, a new development coming up in the community. And then they're able to kind of talk through like what their challenges are and stuff like that. And that then can help move projects forward or at least have some mutual understanding. The next thing we want to look at is building partnerships. This is about working with other organizations to expand reach and impact. Sometimes we feel like we have to reinvent the wheel, and we really don't. If there's already an organization doing the work that you want to do or you feel that is meaningful, join their cause, support them. Maybe you have some resources in your organization that you can then put behind an initiative that they have. and we collectively can do more together versus you trying to create your own initiative and they're trying to do their own initiative, and then it feels siloed and maybe the community is not getting the it's not having the impact that we're looking for. And then fifth, turning client experiences into advocacy priorities. So when you see patterns across your clients, that becomes something you elevate. That's something that's really powerful about NASW when they have Capital Action Day. That is one of the things that I tell the students when they come because, you know, students have a unique experience. You're working with clients, but it feels kind of like low stakes, right? So whenever you're engaging with clients, or even if it's your own lived experience, then you can bring those stories to the room when you're speaking with elected officials. And it helps to push NASW legislative priorities, which, are often centered around supporting the clients that we serve. But you bring those stories into the room because unfortunately, elected officials are not on the ground. So they don't know unless you come to them and tell them what's going on. And finally, empowerment, helping clients understand that their voice matters and that they can participate in shaping systems. So this could look like organizing advocacy days, bringing clients to, let's say, City Hall or Albany to discuss their own experiences, maybe bringing them to speak to their elected officials, supporting them in emailing, calling, or engaging in some other civic activity, getting them to show up and let their voices be heard. All right. We have like 10 minutes, so I'm gonna run through this really quick. So this is my experience. So obviously I'm the NASW PACE Committee Chair. So we are leading political engagement. I'm also the program director of New York Connects Brooklyn. So I oversee outreach, access, and community-based services. And the key lesson here is organizing is built on relationship, trust, and consistency. So when we're building coalitions, we want to think about alignment and persuasion to make sure that we're getting the message that we want pushed forward and buy-in from the stakeholders. So PACE, why does it matter? So PACE, it stands for the Political Action for Candidate Election. So it's a structured approach to civic and political engagement. We endorse candidates that are aligned with social work values and priorities. We actually just endorsed a candidate, Brian Romero, that's running for assembly. He is a social worker, which is amazing. We don't often have a lot of social workers running for office, so that's why his election specifically is so incredibly meaningful. And then we also are looking to engage social workers in elections, advocacy, and voter mobilization. So we would love to get to the point where we're mobilizing social workers in different communities to support the candidates that we are endorsing, because obviously we endorsed them, we gave them some money to support the financial aspect of their campaign. But then we also need boots on the ground to make sure that they get elected so that they can then support social workers and help NASW push their legislative agenda forward. So how can you get involved? Because this is why we're all here. We want to know, okay, all this is great, community organizing, grassroots organizing, sounds lovely. What can I do? One of the things that you can do is to join NASW PACE. And Amanda and Gideon, I know, put their contact information in the chat on the last slide. My email address will be there. But you can get involved with PACE or local advocacy groups. You can volunteer in voter outreach efforts. So you can do canvassing, phone banking, other community events, attend community meetings, forums, and candidate events. So if you live in a district that has like a local community board, that's a great way to get involved. Candidates often have town halls and things like that, or fundraisers and things like that when they're running and trying to raise additional money. Integrate voter education into your agency or daily work. So this is where we go back to like putting in on your intake forms, like, are you registered to vote? Things like that. And on the next slide, we have a couple of other tools that you can utilize to find some information on how you can integrate voter education into your agency and help connect community members to civic participation opportunities. So maybe they want to register as a poll worker. Maybe you want to, on election day, like support doing like carpooling to the polls. Maybe some people are having, or maybe you want to do walking groups to the polls. It's more fun when you do it together, and it helps to get people engaged and really pumped for the work ahead. All right, so how can you find information? There's an app. It's called ActiVote, so you can download that app. And it's actually fun because it puts together, like it asks a series of questions and then it will help you find candidates in your local area that are actually aligned with your, preferences, what you find important, things like that. Voting and social work is an amazing, amazing resource, and the website is all fancy. Now, it was recently redone, and there are lots of videos that if you're a practitioner, if you are an instructor, um, if you're just a social worker, like looking to figure out how to get involved, this is a great place to start. It has like resources no matter where you are positioned. Um, if you're in New York City, vote NYC, um, NASW PACE website, and the New York State Board of Elections. So, and Ballotpedia, community forums, candidate websites, public platforms, those are all great places to access information. All right, so what works? Relationship building, we talked about that. Connecting voting to real life issues, meet people where they are physically and culturally. So sometimes the challenge is not that people don't want to participate, but they are physically unable to, or culturally there is a barrier. So it could be a language barrier. Fortunately, in New York City, all of our voting um information and stuff is published in multiple languages, but that might not be the case in every jurisdiction. So how can you make sure information is culturally responsive and accessible? Make sure you use clear, simple, and accessible messaging. Maintain engagement beyond election cycles. So don't just engage the community when it's time for elections, like even on the off years or in between, make sure that you're constantly engaging with the community because unfortunately, people don't usually vote in all the local elections. They only typically come out for presidential elections. But we also know that local elections are really important. That's where communities get after school funding from, discretionary funding. Your city council, well, if you're in New York City, your city council person is the person who oversees those things. And so if you're not voting in those local elections, you're missing out on opportunities to get money for after school, money for parks, different things. So, and we want to focus on community empowerment and not just voter turnout. All right, so your call to action, 1 minute. All right, so today I would like everyone to take one step towards grassroots engagement this month. Well, I guess we'll start from today, which is the 13th, until May the 13th, since it's not like early in the month. But so get connected, maybe join PACE or a local advocacy group, sign up from updates from a candidate or issue that matters to you. That's a great way to stay informed. And there might be different activities or events and things like that that you might want to join. Show up. So attend a community board, town hall, or candidate forum, and bring a colleague or a friend. Start conversations. So this is actually something that one of my mentors shared with me, the Power of Three challenge. So register, educate three people about voting, and then challenge those three people to do the same. So you're going to register or educate three people, and then each person, you're going to ask them to go do another three people. And that's how we're able to spread the message, spread the word, make sure that it feels really small, but if everybody does their part, we can reach a lot of people that way. Take action in your roles to integrate voter education into your client interactions. There are some resources on the voting and social work website with like um, posters and things like that. If you work in a clinical setting, a hospital, wherever, you can put in your waiting room to register people to vote. There are badges that it takes like a minute to just scan the QR code and register people on site. And all of that information you can find on the voting and social work website. Ask your organization how you might be able to incorporate civic engagement. Also on the voting and social work website, there are tips for people who work in agencies because people think that you cannot do voter engagement because you work in a nonprofit, and that is not true. As long as it is nonpartisan, you absolutely can engage in political in voter education and political engagement and support voter access. So help someone check their voter registration or polling site, share deadlines for registration, early voting, and when election day is and things like that. And oh, this is a photo from Capital Action Day from a few years ago. So this was me and some of my classmates when I was in my MSW program. And that's it. Here's my contact information if anybody wants to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. I do want to take the time to open the floor to everyone for questions. We know that was a lot of information to absorb, and so we do have all of our panelists still here tonight. So take the time to pick their brains. Very smart women here. So if you have a question, please feel free to drop it in the chat or raise your hand, and we can invite you to unmute. Yes, there will be a recording available, and that will be sent to you in the follow-up email. Thank you, Shannon. Shout out to Shannon Lane from Voting and Social Work. Check out the link that Shannon dropped in the chat, everyone, at voter-er.org. But yeah, we're also looking to do some voter mobilization and table at different voter registration events. If anyone has one going on in their area, also send that to us. That'll just help get us out there a little bit more with our PACE committee. We are trying to expand our representation and also expand the candidates we're aware of in different areas. So let us know what's going on in your area. Before I lose you all, because we have a minute left here, I did want to drop a link in the chat as well to a survey which can help you all give us insight for our PACE committee. This link here actually is a member feedback survey where you can let us know what's going on in your district. Let us know if you Google on Ballotopedia. That's one of the main tools that Alicia was speaking to, that you can find people running in your district. But this would be very helpful for our PACE committee to click on this survey and let us know who is running in your district. If you think there are any social work aligned candidates that we need to pay attention to at the state level, then please share that information in the survey, and we will share that with the PACE committee. So yeah, going once. Let's see if we have any other questions here. All right. So then we can conclude. Thank you all for coming here
Hi,
tonight.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead,
I
Anna.
posted a question. I wanted to know if you guys offer like practical placements to students while completing bachelor's or master's.
We do, and we're actively planning to interview in May and June. So if you do want to be considered for a placement, then send your resume to our email and we can get back to you about what that process looks like.
Thank you.
Be sure to register for our events on Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday, we're going to have some legislators in the room, as well as payment for placements again, Common Sense Media coming to talk about AI and its harmful effects towards children. We're also going to have NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, for New York State chapter on Wednesday. So it's going to be a packed event. And then Thursday, we're going to learn about all our coalitions, which, spoiler alert, there's quite a few. So yeah, we hope to see you Wednesday and Thursday, and thank you everyone, and have a great night.